Hey guys, Necroxis here, and I guess I wanted to do a little bit of a final thoughts, if you want to say it, or a recap, or how I felt about Blizzcon this year. I had some people asking me about it, and I figured instead of responding to each tweet and each post on my videos and all of that shenanigans, I will just reply here, because it's going to go very quickly, because how I felt about Blizzcon this year was I didn't think much about it. And it's because I was incredibly bored with pretty much everything that they showed off. I made a couple statements on MMO Champion, I believe on my Twitter as well, where I said, this BlizzCon looks like it's going to be the most boring out of any one they've done so far. Including those, like the infamous Geek Is introduction BlizzCon, where they didn't really show off much. I even consider this BlizzCon more boring than that. And my reasoning is, I just don't... they didn't show off anything super interesting. The only thing that made splashes was Overwatch. And okay, let's start with Overwatch. Overwatch looks like Smite and Team Fortress 2 had sex and had a baby, and that's Overwatch. You know, I like Smite. I've only played a little bit of it, but I like it. It's fun. It's like every other MOBA. Team Fortress 2, it's a thing. It's fun, I guess. I'm not passionate about either game. And I'm also, therefore, not passionate about Overwatch. I just don't care, really. It's something that I signed up for the beta. I will probably play it, maybe, depending on the pricing structure that they use. Is it going to be free to play? Is it going to be a subscription? Is it going to be a one-time purchase? To be honest, I'm so just meh about Overwatch that probably will be what decides if I play it or not, is if I have to actually pay for it. Overwatch, it's the thing. Frankly, I don't understand why people are so fanatically, enthusiastic about it. It looks nice. Honestly, when Howie and I were watching BlizzCon and they showed the trailer, we were very confused as to what was happening. I made a tweet that I feel like is still very relevant, and the tweet was, Blizzard Entertainment presents Pixar, because that is exactly what it looked like. The animation was great. I'm not dinging it for that, but the animation looks fine. It's a new IP from Blizzard. I guess that's why it should be important. But just having a new IP, I feel like, doesn't warrant you to get amazing coverage. The game looks fun. The characters look fun. The classes the classes and the characters are what distinguish it. That looks fun. From a story perspective, I heard Metzen talking about it, and I find the story actually interesting. Unfortunately, they are not pursuing the story in the game. And my biggest gripe with anything... See, I'm the type of gamer who enjoys stories. If you couldn't figure it out from this lore channel, I'm the type of gamer who enjoys stories. And there are very, very few games where I will just not consider the story at all. Dota 2 is probably one. I know that actually there is lore for Dota 2, but I just don't care about it. I just play the game. Dota 2 is probably one. I can't think of any other games like that where I don't at least try to get invested in the story. The vast majority of the games that I play, regardless of the genre, regardless of the how old it is, I always try to get invested into the story. You have Warcraft, that entire franchise, StarCraft, Diablo, Command and Conquer, the Fallout universe, the BioShock universe. What else do I even have on my bar right here that I can just talk to you about? The Batman Arkham trilogy. The story in that is very good. Let's see, Final Fantasy, of course. L.A. Noire, the story is very interesting in that. Darksiders, the story is interesting. I'm going through the games I've played recently. All of them have a story that I find interesting. Alan Wake, it's kind of an older in terms of it's not this year or last year. That storyline was pretty good. Borderlands, the story, I like the story. The Elder Scrolls, the story was pretty good. I guess you can't count Civ. I don't know how you would count the story in Civ, but I guess maybe that's one I don't count either, because the story is like history of the world, so I don't really consider that in either regard. South Park Stick of Truth, that entire game is the storyline, and it's fucking great. The Walking Dead, I can't believe I forgot about that. There we go. So those are all pretty much the games I've been playing lately. Every single one of them I get invested in the story with. Dota 2 is the only one I haven't. And this whole point of this tangent is my biggest gripe with games who have stories is having to go outside of the game for the vast majority or all of the story. And that is exactly what you have to do for Overwatch. Now you can say, Necroxis, it's a Team Fortress game. What do you want them to have story in it for? And I will fully admit that's a valid counter-argument, but that does not change my point. It doesn't change the point. It doesn't change the point that if I want an interesting story and I don't want to go read a compendium online to get it. So, Overwatch, cool, I guess, but not super interesting. What else do we have? Diablo 3. Barely talked about. Talked about some changes they were adding in a new patch. Some new legendaries like they always add in. Some new goblins, which are cool, I guess. But nothing about an expansion. It's been a little while. The Reaper of Souls has been out for over 6 months now. I'm not saying they have to say the new expansion's coming soon. I'm just saying probably tell us that they're working on it. And they even dodged that question at their Q&A. They couldn't even confirm they were working on an expansion. So... what else? Hearthstone. Don't care about. Next topic. But in all honesty, the expansion looks cool, I guess. But that's about it. I don't really play Hearthstone that much. I don't think it's a bad game. I think it's frustrating. I think pretending that you... I have a problem saying this statement, but I'm going to say it anyway, because a lot of the times I feel it, but sometimes I don't. Hearthstone, I have a hard time saying that it's free to play, when it very much seems like the best way to do anything is to just drop $100 on a shitload of packs. And you could say that's how TCGs work, and I will agree with you 100%. That doesn't change my point. So, Hearthstone, there we go. I'm avoiding the two that I actually want to talk about. World of Warcraft! Nothing. The panels on World of Warcraft were pathetic, especially the one on day one. It felt like they just sent the second wave team in to be like, fuck it, just... You guys are hungover or whatever from the night before, just fucking do the panel. Just sit there for an hour. Just don't answer anything. Don't talk about anything new. Just recap literally everything you talked about last BlizzCon. Don't tell us a single thing new. Go for it. World of Warcraft. And the funny thing is, they spent a decent amount of time talking about how it's the 10th anniversary of World of Warcraft and the 20th anniversary of Warcraft as a whole. And it's just so important. And I can't believe we're working on one franchise for 20 years. Basically nothing was talked about World of Warcraft. The movie was cool. Finally, great to see a bunch of confirmation for actors that a lot of us have already figured out who they were, for the most part. I know I've left but wait, there's lore, but I'm still going to talk about when I was on the show, and we did an episode about the movie, and we pretty much nailed almost every single person that we predicted what role they were going to play. You had Paul Patton being Garona, you had Ben Foster being Medivh, you had the redheaded guy being... I don't know, whoever everybody else was. I believe we got almost all of them right. So, there wasn't even a trailer. There was if you were at the convention, but apparently they couldn't be bothered to give anyone with a virtual ticket the access to that, because apparently Blizzard and Duncan Jones can't secure the rights to that, even though it's Blizzard's franchise. Or I guess they created the franchise. They couldn't even get it for their own convention. I'm super stoked for the movie. The armor looks really cool. They got Lothar's sword basically perfect. As close to as how it is in the lore that I think they could get with the realistic movie prop. His armor looks great, although it's purple. A big part of it's purple. I don't understand why, but whatever. It's just the color. Everything about the movie looks really cool, but the big drawing point is supposed to be this trailer or this teaser, the one they showed off like months ago at Comic-Con. Still couldn't get it. Very disappointing. That seems to be a theme of this BlizzCon: disappointment. Or apathy. Disappointment and apathy, BlizzCon 2014. So who do we get to now? We get Heroes of the Storm. One of the only two things that I actually found very interesting. They talked about, how many new characters did they talk about? They talked about Jaina, they talked about Thrall, they talked about Sylvanas, they talked about, the Lost Vikings. I believe they said 5. I can't remember what the last one is, or if they even mentioned it, but that was cool. The new maps look great. The Skyfall, is that what they call it? Skyfall Temple? Or whatever, the one in the air, the Egyptian-looking one, looks amazing. The art in that is fantastic. Sylvanas looks like a cool hero, I guess. I know Howie's finally happy that they introduced her. I don't care about her, really. I'm more interested in Thrall and Jaina. They look amazing. Jaina specifically, I'm very excited to play her. I've wanted a Crystal Maiden or a Lina character-ish kind of that from Dota into this game at this point. That seems to be Jaina's role. She does a lot of burst damage. She's a mage. I like it. That probably will be my main character to play as until they introduced somebody else like Gul'dan. Come on, they even got a question about Gul'dan. So yeah, that was cool. There's not much I can say about it other than the heroes are fun, and I can't wait till they put them in the game so I can play them, because I am in the technical alpha with Howie and Dunn and Rioris, and some other people, but I can't play them yet, so I can't really talk much more about it unless I actually play them, so yeah. Then finally, StarCraft 2, the most interesting thing I think about this whole convention. I'm super excited for Legacy of the Void, as you guys might know if you follow me on Twitter. About a month ago, I was replaying through Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm on Brutal, because I never could do that before. I was always a terrible RTS player. I'm still very bad. I would consider myself very bad, but I've been able to do it. I've got pretty much half of Wings of Liberty done with Brutal. The second half is just too hard for me. I'm sure I could do it if I just copy, or if I just verbatim read a strategy, but I don't really want to do that. I kind of want to figure it out by myself. But I did do all of Brutal for Heart of the Swarm. Granted, there was a complaint that it's a lot easier than Wings of Liberty. Whatever. My point is, I'm very excited for Legacy of the Void. Like I mentioned, I'm very invested into the story of StarCraft, even if it is kind of basic and kind of cliched. I still find it interesting. I like the characters. I like Raynor. I like Kerrigan. I like Zeratul. I like Nova. I like the universe. I like Artanis. I like Mensk. I thought he was an amazing villain for as long as he was. So yeah. They showed off a decent amount of things about the Legacy of the Void campaign, and I'm very excited for it. It's the conclusion to the entire story of both games, StarCraft 1, Brood War, and StarCraft 2 trilogy. I'm very pumped. They have big shoes to fill to cap off the story of all of their StarCraft games if they've been building up to this point, but I think they can do it. That's the thing I was most interested in, so yeah, that's about it. I think that's all of BlizzCon. So in the end, my biggest problem was only one out of their 3 franchises, their big 3, StarCraft, Diablo, and Warcraft. Only one of those out of their big 3 got any attention at all, and that's very disappointing to me. I know people are going to say, what do you want them to say for Warcraft, because the expansion launches next week. They could easily talk about the first patch content. And also if they want to stick to their whole, we want to release expansions faster, they could have even talked about the next expansion. They could have even announced the next expansion. That doesn't mean they have to spoil the story of Warlords. They can just say, Warlords happens, all of the things happen with it, and the next expansion will be doing this. It doesn't detract from the interest of Warlords, because you can't play the new expansion yet. I mean, you can't play the one after Warlords yet. There's not even an alpha or anything. So I don't buy the argument that they couldn't talk about it because they would take away interest. I think if anything, they would build more interest in World of Warcraft because it's just new things they're still talking about. Diablo 2, I strongly feel like they should have talked about the next expansion. I didn't think they were going to compared to StarCraft. I all but knew they were gonna talk about the Legacy of the Void, but I strongly feel like they should have at least mentioned that they were at least working on the next expansion. So there you go. Very disappointed. I think it's probably the worst BlizzCon. I don't care about Metallica. I don't hate them, or I don't really like them. They're meh. Sorry if that offends you. I have no opinion on them, I guess is my point. So that didn't drive me. Again, no movie trailer, no WoW news, no Diablo news. Overwatch, I don't care about, really. So that's BlizzCon. What else can we talk about? Anything else? Oh, do I want to bring this up? I think I do. So, if you've been paying attention on the internet, you might know that there was this thing happening. This thing is called Gamergate. It's a thing that's happening. I'm not going to explain the whole thing, but basically Mike Morhaime, during the introduction of BlizzCon this year, he made a very innocuous statement, innocuous, very, very non-threatening, very non-aggressive, very non-partisan. He basically just said, people who are harassing people are bad. Let's all show everyone how gamers are cool. That's a very innocuous statement that I support 100%. But both sides of Gamergate, and I do fall on the pro-Gamergate side, sorry to bum you out if you're on the other side, but both sides of the argument immediately latched onto it, thinking that Mike Morhaime was condemning the other side. And I think that's just stupid. I think if I had to say which side I think he was or at least which side's ideology he was more in line with. I will say probably it's the pro-Gamergate side, but I don't think he was condemning anti-Gamergate. I don't think he was supporting Gamergate. I just think he was saying, there are dicks on the internet who are making all gamers look like assholes. Screw them, they suck. We're all gamers here. Yay for us. That's all he was saying. And it kind of bothered me to see that politicized at the very beginning of BlizzCon as much as it was. So, that's about it. Not much else to talk about. The whole Waither's lore drama went down. If I can say one thing about it, I will say it certainly, 100% it was not our intention to release these videos. First of all, while Pride wasn't even at home to defend himself, but secondly, during BlizzCon, because I know certain people who were not necessarily with Pride, or went with him, but were there at the convention with him, and they felt like from what I understood, they believed we were trying to ruin their BlizzCon. That most certainly was not our intention. Like we tried to explain, the only reason it went down the way that it did in that way was because of the whole guild stuff just happened to have occurred then. And the very next day after it happened, that's when we made the videos and released them. So it certainly was not our intention to try and ruin anyone's BlizzCon. I've never been to BlizzCon, but it's one of the dreams I have of my life is to go there, and I'm really hoping I can next year. So I would never dream of trying to ruin anybody's BlizzCon. I just want to get that out there before you hear anything else, because unfortunately it sounds like this whole issue is going to be litigated publicly based on some things I've heard Pride saying, basically calling us all liars and stuff like that. So I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm going to choose to not speak about this anymore until something else inevitably happens. If it does, I think probably something is going to happen, but I don't know. If it doesn't, you'll never hear about it again, except for me talking about when I used to be on the show. I'll talk about it. I'm not ashamed of it. I had a lot of fun. But, yeah, I just want to get that out there before you hear anything else. Just listen to it with an open mind. I guess one more thing on the Waither's lore or Pride thing is my only request would be you're probably going to hear his side of things, and that's fine. It's totally within his rights. I think you should listen to it. I think you should go into it with an open mind. That would be my only request. Go into whatever you're going to hear, and I expect you should. I would have hoped you went into what you heard us say with an open mind. Don't just blanket believe every single thing we said. Ask questions. Base it on your own perceptions of us and him and everyone involved. Don't just try. We don't expect you just to believe us just because of who we are. You should be skeptical. Being skeptical is probably one of the best parts of being a human being and as evolved as we are. We can question things. Question everything. Question us. We'll answer your questions. Question him. Question whatever you want. That's my only point. You're going to hear probably a lot more stuff coming out about this whole situation. Go into it with an open mind. Don't believe me. Don't believe him. Don't believe Howie and Dunn or Yoris. Don't believe Pride or his friends or whoever else. Make up your own mind. That's it. So, with that rambling statement out of the way, this is my BlizzCon recap video. Sorry to disappoint you if you really liked it. I want to say if you loved BlizzCon this year, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be allowed to have fun or have loved it. I personally just didn't. You know, it's totally fine. If you spent your $40 on your virtual ticket and you think it was well worth it, great. I actually didn't spend $40 on a virtual ticket. Somebody else I know did, and they let me watch a lot of the panels. That's not illegal, I can say that. So, you know, who cares? I'm kind of glad that I didn't spend $40 on it, but once again, that's my own personal opinion. If you felt like it was worth it, once again, I'm not taking it away from you. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel like it was worth it if you went there and you had fun. I'm not saying you shouldn't have gone and shouldn't have had fun. I'm just saying, me personally, I wasn't big on BlizzCon this year. And, but, with that being said, next year's BlizzCon will probably be very awesome. We're going to have the Warcraft announcement, or we'll have the next expansion announcement. We'll hear much more about Legacy of the Void. If it's not out already, we will very likely hear about a Diablo expansion. Heroes of the Storm will either be released or almost released. I'm sure we'll have a lot more heroes and maps and stuff to talk about. Hearthstone will probably already have their next expansion out or coming out very soon. Overwatch will probably either be out or, again, also coming out very soon. You know, did I hit everything? I think I did. So, I'm actually very psyched for next BlizzCon. Again, like I said, I hope I go. If everything goes according to plan this year, I will be going to BlizzCon next year, and I'm very excited about it. So, thanks for watching, everyone. This is my BlizzCon thoughts. As you could probably tell, They weren't scripted, very freeform, very rambly. That's what you get. Sorry. I figured instead of just not making a video, which was my original plan, I would just make this for you guys because I got a lot of questions about it. So, thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time. Also, thanks for watching my Warcraft playthrough. They do get more views than a lot of my Let's Plays, and I really appreciate them. So, thanks a lot, guys. The expansion's coming out. This is Sunday night that I'm recording this. We got 4 days, guys. Are you excited? Even though I don't like the Warlord story thus far, I'm pumped for it. So, hopefully we'll see you on Draenor, if I don't talk to you till then. And, have fun, guys, with the new expansion. And I'll talk to you soon. Farewell.